All right, so this lesson, guys, we're gonna look at some algebra. I'm probably actually gonna break this video up into two videos because I want to have one video dedicated just to completing the squares. But really, it's only gonna be a few problems for this algebra work. So really, if we look at a circle, it's made of two quadratic equations. So let's remind ourselves how we actually work with quadratics. So we're gonna need to write a squared binomial in standard form, and then we're gonna complete the square to convert the quadratics in standard form. So we can determine the center and radius of the circle. Let's just look and see what that looks like. So the standard form of quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c. Means we have equals 0 there, but this is just a standard form. We're going to actually be working with multiple quadratics, so we'll have other stuff there with it. So before we do anything else, we're going to square this binomial. What does it mean to square something? Well, whenever we say 3 squared, we mean 3 times 3. So x minus 2 squared means x minus 2 times x minus 2. And then we're going to use the distributive property. Some of you may know this F word that I refuse to use. It stands for first, outer, inner, last. That only works if we're talking about a binomial. So yes, it would work in this case, but I do not use that word. I refuse. It is the distributive property, plain and simple. What we really need to do is make sure everyone in this set of parentheses multiplies everyone in this set of parentheses, and then combine our terms. So this x times this x is x squared. This x times this negative 2 is negative 2x. This negative 2 times this x is another negative 2x. And this negative 2 times this negative 2 is a positive. Negative times negative is a positive 4. After that, we just combine our like terms. We have two negative 2x's. So we can combine that to negative 4x. That's it. We've just used the distributive property on this binomial here. Since it's a square binomial, so it's a perfect square binomial right there. So we're going to look at a few of those, and I'll show you how it'll be formatted on your screen. I'm going to get you to distribute that, and then I'm going to want you to write the A, the B, and the C. Remember, the quadratics in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So if we look here, A would be 1, B would be negative 4, and C would be 4. The reason we're going to look at these is because there's a nice little pattern between the B and the C that you can look at. We're going to use that to our advantage later. So let's look at this one. So on your computer, you could do this on paper if you have scratch paper and then just type in the A and the B and the C. Or you can actually work it out here. So if you want to show your work, click on this text box and make it like this or so. You just type x plus 5 times x plus 5. So x times x, that's x squared. So here's how you use a superscript on here. Go ahead and put the 2, and I'm going to highlight it. I use shift left arrow key to highlight it. You can format, and then if you look at format options, or text options probably. So format, text, there it is. Superscript, that's what we want. For me, it's the Mac button dot. Probably it's a control dot on a Windows computer, but if you look right in this spot, it'll tell you your keyboard shortcut. And that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut. I'm going to use my Apple key dot. And you can see it's a little floating 2. Now, if you want to get out of here, hit command dot again. So x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25. And it automatically capitalizes, that's okay. I just hit enter. My next line. So I'm going to combine those like terms. I'm going to hit the command dot, put that 2 there, command dot again, plus 10x plus 25. And then we're going to fill out these A, B, and C. So for A, that's going to be a 1. For B, that's 10. And for C, that's 25. That way, if your superscript's giving you a little trouble, you don't have to worry about it. You can do the work on paper and then fill in the answers here. I'll finish these off on here though, just so you can see what it looks like. I don't know how I'm going to do that square root. I'm probably actually going to do that one on the Active Inspire over here, because I don't know how to do a square root symbol easily. But I can do this one. So that means x minus 9 times x minus 9. I like to write it out so I can actually see what I'm doing. That's going to be x squared. Oops, wrong button. Hey, look, there's all the keyboard shortcuts. I hit Command question mark and it told me all these keyboard shortcuts. I'm Command dot though. X squared minus 9x minus 9x. X times x, negative 9, x times negative 9, negative 9 times x. And then we have negative 9 times negative 9 makes a positive 81. So this should be very familiar to you from algebra, hopefully anyway. X squared minus 18x plus 81. And that's it. So I guess all of these have 1 for the A term so far. It's possible to get something different. So if you do, don't feel like it's wrong. Now be careful here, it's negative 18 for B. Let me make my text box a little bigger. I'll also give you some more space whenever I make the actual lesson again. This is just kind of like a rough draft for me, so I can show you what I'm doing. 81. And it looks all funky, but if you have it, I can understand what you're doing, we're good to go. And yeah, I'm definitely going to do this one over here on Active Inspire, so I can draw that square root symbol. Okay. Now, I probably won't give you any square roots or any other weird symbols on the assignments because it's just not convenient for you to have to write those symbols. So I do want you to see that it is possible and that it is perfectly fine to multiply a square root times another square root or whatever. But for the purposes of easiness, we're not going to have any square roots in your assignment. It's going to be x squared. I can drop that parentheses sign. X times x is x squared. X times negative square root of 14 is negative x square root of 14. We multiply the outside numbers, 1x times negative 1. And then the inside of the square root. There's no square root here, so it's basically square root of 1 times 14. We get negative x square root of 14. Same thing here, negative square root of 14 times x. That's going to be negative x square root of 14 again. And then if we multiply negative square root of 14 times negative square root of 14, we get positive 14. And if you don't know, you can use your Casio. This emulator is in the Google Classroom's class folder, by the way, if you don't remember. I put it in there at the beginning. So you can go and download that. It's built for a Windows machine. It's an exe file. Square root of 14 squared. Well, let me write it like this. It won't matter. That works. Or that'll work. Either way, you get 14. So yeah, it's an exe file. So if you have a Mac computer, you'll have to use either Wine or Quartz, depending on the version of your Mac. Most likely Quartz, because I think Wine's out of date. But you can just go to a Google search on how to run an exe file on whatever system you're using. Anyway, let's Get back to work. Now I have 2 of these, so it's minus 2 square root of 14. I'm going to put that. That's my coefficient. That whole number thing is my coefficient. That's times x. So that's what b is. That's why I'm going to write it like that. Plus 14. That's a 1. That's negative 2 square root of 14. And right here, that's 14. Let me go ahead and get my a, b, and c from the other ones. 1, 10, 25. I want to look and see if we can see a pattern. 1, negative 18, and 81. So if we look at the b and the c terms, there is a pattern there. Just by looking at the b term, we can figure out what c is going to be. If it's a perfect square trinomial, that's 3 terms of the trinomial. The perfect square trinomial, looking at the b term, can give you the c term. So let's see, 10 turns into 25. 10 gives us a 25. Okay. Negative 18 gives us an 81. Oh. If we're looking at it, it doesn't look like the sign matters, because this is positive, we get a positive, that's negative, and we get a positive. And then, ooh, this is weird. Negative 2 square root of 14 gives us 14. So if we think about it, how can we not matter? How can the sign not matter? What do we do to something that makes the sign not matter? Well, if we square something, if it's positive or negative, it's not going to make a difference. So 10 squared is 100. That's not quite going to get us 25. But what squared is 25? 5 squared. And 5 is half of 10. So let's see if that works. So if we do 10 divided by 2, that's 5. And if we square that, that gives us 25. This is a terrible setup here. I shouldn't have this double equal sign. So anyway, let's see if it works for this one. Negative 18 over 2 is negative 9. What I should have done right here is just made a separate one. Negative 9 squared, yeah, that's 81. How about this thing here? Negative 2 square root of 14 over 2. Oh, yeah, that's negative square root of 14. If I do negative square root of 14 squared, that most certainly does give me a positive 14. And that's the rule. We take the b and divide it by 2 and square it. B over 2 squared. That's the rule, the pattern that we need to follow. That's a 2, by the way, if you weren't listening. Let me write it. B over 2, that looks better, squared. And we're going to use that in just a few minutes. And well, actually, we're going to use it right now to tell if these are perfect square trinomials. Because remember, I just said, if it's a perfect square trinomial, then you can get b over 2, square it, and that better give you c. If that's not true, you don't have a perfect square trinomial. So let's just test these right here. These are just yes or no's, and we can just circle. So I'm going to take my calculator. I can actually do it in my head, but why not use a calculator? 2 divided by 2 is 1. And if I square that answer, I can hit the square button. It gives me that. It's 1. I could have also said 1 squared is 1. So yeah, that's my C term. It matches. I'm going to go ahead and circle that yes. And again, I'm going to turn off this color fill in. I'm going to put transparent. However you want to do it, you could even just put a text box and say yes if you prefer, whatever's easier for you. Let's look at this next one. Huh. Well, I'm not sure on that one. I can't do that one in my head. I'm going to take -5 and divide it by 2. That gives me that fraction over there. Oh, I need to square it, so let's see what happens. I get another fraction. So let me see what that is. SD button. Oh, 6.25. Yes, indeed. So this is another perfect square trinomial. So as long as b over 2 squared matches this c term, we're good to go. Yes. Okay. Let's try this one. 20 divided by 2 is 10. If I square that, it's 100. That one doesn't work. That's a negative ghostwriter. But 0, we know what that's from. Now, if they're not, briefly tell me why. So just a couple words. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10, I'll use my little squared symbol. You can also write squared is 100. Good enough. All right, another one for the calculator. 1 divided by 2, that's going to be 1 over 2. Imagine that. Squared, that's definitely not a 2. That's a 0.25. That's another no. Oops, I can just do that. That's another no. And the y, same kind of thing. 1 over 2 squared is 0.25, not 2. Something like that. Well, this is interesting. They didn't simplify that one, did they? So I have -5 divided by 2 and it's squared. And of course, that's always going to be positive, right? We're squaring it, so this sign's not going to matter. It's always going to be positive. If I do that, 6.25. So is that the same? It's 25 over 4. Well, let's see. 5 over 4 squared. Let's see if this is 25 over 16. Oh, Oh, that's why. That definitely says a 2 right there, doesn't it? Sorry, I'm a little aloof at the moment. Oh, there we go, 6.25, it matched. So if you were on the video probably about 30 seconds ago of me you'll see it's the same thing. And it should make sense to you. 5 over 2 squared is the same thing as -5 over 2 squared. So yeah, it's good. And last one here. -18 divided by 2, and I square that, and I get 81, and it's 81, but look at that. They said -81. These are always going to be positive, people. So this is a no. And you can just write should be positive 81. Doesn't have to be fancy, don't have to use symbols. You can write out the word positive. You could say that shouldn't be negative. Just let me know that you know what you're doing. Not looking for 100% perfectness here. So let's look at the next thing. So it says determine the value of the constant term c. So again, we just found the pattern b over 2 squared. That's all we're going to do here. And then we're going to write it in factored form. So I'm going to show you a little shortcut on these because I'm going to show you a really big shortcut in a minute. So I know I need to do 4 over 2 and square it. That's what my c term needs to be. 4 divided by 2 squared is 4. So we know these are all x squared, so that's always just going to be an x right there. And for our purposes, it will stay like that because that's what circles need. Now we need either plus or minus something, and it's going to go right here. And we're going to square this whole thing. If you remember, whenever we're multiplying these out, this c term comes directly from these products. This is 1. It's going to be whatever this is times itself. We need a b over 2. So positive 4 divided by 2 is 2. And it's a positive. It's going to be the same sign as whatever this is. So if this is a negative, this would be a negative. This is positive, this is positive. And we can check, just to show you I'm not lying. X times x, x squared. 2 times, positive 2 times x, positive 2x, positive 2x, positive 4. Simplify it, these will become 4x, just like we have right here, plus 4. So 9 divided by 2 is 9 over 2, and we square it, we get 81/4. I'm gonna leave it like that. Guess what? If your calculator gave you 20.25, that's perfectly fine as well. I prefer fractions, but again, whatever you got, use it. If your calculator doesn't do fractions very easily, then just use decimals. Fine. So this is going to be x. It's positive. And then I just said it's going to be whatever this over 2 is. So it's 9 over 2 squared. 9 over 2, if you want, is 4.5. So you can write 4.5 there if you want. I'm going to leave it like that. All right. So here we go. This one's got a decimal for our b. 6.5 divided by 2. 13/4. Square that. 169 over 16. I'm going to stick right here. But again, you could write 10.5625. I would ask that you don't just round that to like 10.6 though. Actually write out all the decimals that it has. That way I can see it as a fraction. All right. So it's going to be x plus, because that's a positive. Now you could write 6.5 over 2, or you could write 13 over 4. Or you could write 3.25. Any of those would be perfectly fine by me. I can write 3.25, why not? So that's what I'd want you to put on here. So all it needs is the factored form. You can put it on the line or the line, whatever's easiest for you. X plus 3.25. Yeah, fractions probably aren't the easiest thing to do on here. Squared. You can also do, let me show you how I write a fraction. X plus 9 over 2. Just use the slash right there. Squared. And I know what you mean. That's 9 over 2. And if we look, we have 9 over 2 there. So whatever's easiest for you, decimals or fractions, up to you. Okay, here we go, completing the squares. And here is where I'm going to stop this video so it's not too terribly long and start the next one. It's the same lesson, but I'm just going to break it up into 2 videos so it doesn't overwhelm you. Be right back.